Yo guys, what's up? It's EricTube101 here, and recently I just hit 300 games on Xbox. So today I figured I'd take you guys into a dive, give you guys some good suggestions for those of you guys who might not have as many games but still want to know about the better games out there. I figured I would be able to give you guys that kind of information. So we'll be talking about good indie games, good multiplayer games, good story games, some other categories as well. Yeah, let's just get right into the video. Alrighty guys, so first off we're going to be talking about my favorite multiplayer experiences. Now, my top 3 for this would probably be Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, and GTA 5. Now, you guys probably know what all of those are, especially Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty. You get even people who aren't gamers probably have a pretty good knowledge of what those two franchises are. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege is a tactical shooter game where basically all of the characters are from different special ops units around the world, such as SWAT, FBI. And it's also for every single nation, so there's like GIGN and other special ops for other countries as well, which is really cool. There's no fake characters per se, there's no cartoon characters. It's all based off of real special units and actual tools and guns that special units around the world use, which I think is pretty cool. So which one is my favorite multiplayer experience? Out of the 3, Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, and Rainbow Six Siege, I am going to go with Rainbow Six Siege. The details are what I just described, and also, so here's the thing. With Grand Theft Auto 5, it was a lot larger than, the other two. You could basically do anything in the online realm that you wanted to. I mean, obviously, Grand Theft Auto is known for, stealing cars, robbing banks, going on heists, etc. But, you could also go to, the golf course inside of the game and play golf. You could also take flying lessons from the airport. And that's really cool that they built, small things like that, but are still really cool games. Because if you think about it, a lot of the smaller game modes inside of Grand Theft Auto would make entire games by themselves if they're on, a cheaper level. Racing was a huge thing in Grand Theft Auto. But if you take all of the different racing modes and racing maps that Grand Theft Auto has, especially user generated and everything, that could make an entire game by itself just with that racing. If you just took all the racing in Grand Theft Auto and turned it into one game, people would just buy that by itself. Like any other racing game out there, like Forza or anything. And just different stuff like that. If you took just the heist and probably added a couple more heist options in there, that could probably be just an entire game by itself. And it's just kind of crazy to think that they did all that. However, it was heavily microtransaction based, and for example, they made cars millions of in game currencies. So a lot of people, instead of grinding for hours and hours and hours and hours, just went ahead and bought in-game currency, which I was a lot younger when I was really playing it on the daily, so I didn't think that much of it. But looking back on it, I feel like if a lot of kids and a lot of adults even weren't buying these in-game currencies to buy all of their new releases, like new cars and stuff. However, all DLC was free. But they still made a lot of money off transactions because of, expensive cars, expensive houses in the game, etc. that people really wanted. And so I feel like if they couldn't make all that money off of microtransactions, they probably would have stopped at half of what they had put in there, 5 years into it. So that's just my opinion, though. Call of Duty Black Ops 3, in my opinion, perfected the futuristic Call of Duty. I really enjoyed Black Ops 3. I know some of you guys didn't, and I think most people would agree that play every Call of Duty would agree that Black Ops 3 was the best futuristic Call of Duty. along with Advanced Warfare, also has a large fan base. But yeah, Black Ops 3 just did a lot of things right. It was such a colorful game. You know, the gameplay was always amazing. They had really good. Well, they had like a really good weapon system. The loot box system was pretty good in that game. I know a lot of people don't like loot boxes as well. I personally did in that game. I thought they were fun to open, and also you weren't forced to buy them if you wanted them. You could earn them through in-game currency. So in my opinion, that makes it perfectly fine. Again, Call of Duty is heavily reliant on the microtransactions. Not as much in the past couple of years, but with Black Ops 3, there was a lot of microtransactions. And I think the fan bases and also some governments around the world has really said, hey, you know, if you put these boxes in the game, that's first of all encouraging underage gambling, if the game's rated M, and second of all, it's just unfair to have, you know, people pay the $60 for the base game or $80 or $100 and then still have to be paying throughout the year, because you really trick them and say, hey, you're going to get this and this and that, but really not. So, you know, that's why GTA and Black Ops 3 kind of had microtransactions a few years back, but now you're really seeing microtransactions die out. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege also has microtransactions. However, it's going to give you zero game advantage. You know, you get a whole bunch of free operators right off the bat. Well, you didn't use to, but they were still really cheap. Back when the first game, like when the game first came out and you decided to pay for the original operators, now you get all the original operators for free. And also, I think like certain editions you get the year one operators for free, and then you can grind your way to get every single character in the game. You don't have to buy them, but a lot of people still do. So all of them do have microtransactions, but Rainbow Six Siege is the best. And also, I just love the tactical shooter realm of that. I think they're probably Rainbow Six Siege is probably the best tactical shooter to ever be released, in my opinion. So I'm a really big fan of Rainbow Six Siege, and I think it's just really cool how there wasn't any made up characters. It's all real special ops units, special units around the world, including, you know, like the FBI, GN, etc., etc. And yeah, and you know, and also a lot in my YouTube videos you see Rainbow Six Siege gameplay, so it probably wouldn't have took a genius to figure out that I like Rainbow Six Siege. I always post it on my Snap. I always post it on YouTube as my gameplay. I use it a lot because it's pretty exciting gameplay to use, and it also doesn't really draw attention to the gameplay too much. A lot of people can still focus on my voice while watching Rainbow Six Siege gameplay. But yeah, so Rainbow Six Siege is my favorite game out of the 300 games that I own currently, multiplayer wise. Favorite story. Alrighty guys, so honorable mentions for favorite story would have to be Far Cry 5, Saints Row the Third, Fable 3, again, Black Ops 3 was one of my favorite story modes. I like the story mode on Black Ops 3. Yeah, there's a few other ones that I really liked. But we're talking like games that don't have a multiplayer, or at least the multiplayer wasn't popular. So my top 3 would probably be Far Cry 5, Saints Row the Third, or Fable 3. Now my favorite is probably Far Cry 5. Now some details about that. It's basically like this cult is taken over in the Southern America county. So it's in like the south of the United States. There's like, it's really cool because like the enemies are a bunch of like basically rednecks and a religious cult, and you have to take over the county back. And so, but there's so much little stuff built into it. For example, you know, there's like Bigfoot like little Easter egg in there to where you can hear screams, you can hear paw prints. However, no one's ever actually spotted a Bigfoot in the game. Much like in real life United States, where all the people hear these roars, these footprints, they claim to have seen it. Just like in the game, people have claimed to have seen it. Not like in real life, like gamers haven't seen it in the game, but like NPCs in the game have claimed to see it. So it's basically just like the real life, which was really cool. And Far Cry 5, like I said, does have a multiplayer, but it's not a popular multiplayer. Nobody bought Far Cry 5 for its multiplayer specifically. It was a story game mode that had a small multiplayer put in there. And there's just so much different things to do. Like, there's little heist missions you can go on, but it's like really neat. Like, say for instance, a whole bunch of money was stacked in a cave that was like controlled by these people, the cult, and there were some people in there, and then, you know, etc., etc. There's also like a haunted location where you could find like some money and stuff, and then, you know, there's just a whole bunch of like cult outposts as well that you would have to take out the cult outposts, or you would just go into their base and, you know, basically kill all of them. So I think the game was really well put together, and it was also a beautiful game to play. Once again, really colorful, really great graphics. I thought the story was really interesting as well. They did a wonderful job on the bosses. I'm forgetting their names right off the top, but like that female chick where you were like always drugged out on like LSD or whatever, and you were like kind of tripping, but at the same time she was like there and stuff. Or so, because that's what I thought like the flowers were for those who have played the game, was like LSD or like made you trip. And then there was also like one military dude that was like a strong warhead was one of the bosses. They did a great job on that. So Far Cry 5 was a really well put together game, in my opinion. And yeah, there's just lots of like small Easter eggs in Far Cry 5 as well, which is what made it great for me. I played it through it twice actually. The first time I just did all the major missions, all the outposts and stuff, and all like the major missions that the game wants you to do. And the second time I actually beat the entire game just doing small stuff and earning points that way, because it's progressed through earning points. You have to like make your bosses mad kind of thing. You basically had to become a problem, and then the boss fights you at the end, basically. So you have to earn points and make, you know, whoever's in charge of that region that you're trying to take over is going to get mad at you. However much points you rank up, basically how much trouble you cause throughout the game, the boss is going to get mad at you and then fight you. So you have to make enough trouble in any way possible in the county for the boss to fight you, and then you kill the boss, and then you take over the region, and then reintroduce democracy, and then everything like that into the region. So it's just a really big game. So like I said, the second time I actually completed the game just using smaller missions and Easter eggs. I didn't do any outpost. I didn't do like any major missions, which I thought was like really fun to do. I learned so much extra stuff about the game, like the movie scene in the game, and then like the Bigfoot, like I said, in the game. You know, I actually got to one of like the locations of the boss on the map, which I didn't know was in it the first time I played, because I thought it was just like a cutscene that brings it to you, but it's actually located in the map, which was really cool. Yeah, so like I said, Far Cry 5 is the best story mode out of my 300 games in my opinion. So I would recommend Far Cry 5 if you're looking for a really good long story. Alrighty, now moving on to indie games. I don't have a lot to recommend for indie games, because I mainly just use indie games for like walkthroughs and like achievements and stuff. But one good indie game that I would really highly recommend is Firewatch. It's basically where you're like a park ranger, and you have to like live the life of a park ranger. After your wife dies, you just move out to like this national park. But there's so much like interesting stuff that probably park rangers have to go through in the real world. Not necessarily all the time, but it, like it just did a really good job of taking you through the park. While the main story is actually like these wildfires keep on popping up, and your main goal is to try to solve like who's causing all this, what's making all of this stuff happen that's happening within the park. But there's also just some really interesting stuff, like you can save a turtle, and then you can also like you find these teenagers skinny dipping in a pond. Obviously, they don't show you like teenagers' body parts. It's just like you see them far off in distance, and all their clothes are on the beach. So you know that they're skinny dipping, so you have to make them stop. And then there's also people like lighting off fireworks, and then you have to find them and make them stop. There's like this evil laboratory dude. You have to like explore the laboratory, which is really cool in my opinion. So Firewatch, and the graphics on it are really like interesting because it's not like your typical like realistic graphics, so it's more like a drawn graphics, but they're still like really really good graphics. I really enjoyed looking at the game while I was playing it, just looking at the map and everything, and the map is actually really big for an indie game. So Firewatch is one of my favorite indie games of all time. I don't get me wrong when I say that I don't have a lot to say about indie games because I just play them for the achievements. I still have played a lot of indie games, but I don't know if I would necessarily recommend a whole lot of them, and I would have to think more about what indie games recommend because I can't really think of anything off the top of my head while I'm recording this. Emily Wants to Play was pretty good. There's a lot of like horror games that are indie games because major companies for some reason don't touch on horror, which is weird because if you go into the movie scene, a lot of like movie industries want to make horror movies. Like Pet Sematary just released, but you don't really see that in gaming. Major gaming companies don't care about horror games, which is really odd for some reason because it's a huge market. Somebody could perfect one. Resident Evil 2 just came out and it was a huge blockbuster. But, for some reason nobody is going to really try to play off that and make more of them. It's mind-boggling to me. I mean, Resident Evil 2 was like the first one in a few years, and it's probably going to be the first one in at least like a year or so down the road. There won't be another one. Except for like indie games for horror games. And like I said, Emily Wants to Play kind of pops out at me as a pretty good one. So Layers of Fear was the game I was thinking about, and I know you guys are going to say, oh well, if you don't know the name of it, could it really be that good? Yes, trust me, Layers of Fear is definitely worth your money. I thought it was a fantastic indie game. You just gotta remember, I do have over 300 games, so obviously I can't be expected to remember the name right off the top of my head of every single, one of those 300. But Layers of Fear, Emily Wants to Play, and Firewatch are all great games for indie games. Like I said, Firewatch is my favorite indie game, though. Alrighty, so favorite Game Pass game. Now, there are some great games on the Game Pass, and I would recommend waiting for a deal to get it, because they always offer like $1 for a month, or like half off like 3 or 6 months or something like that. They always offer like really good deals. So what I'm saying is, whatever you do, don't pay the full price for Game Pass because that would just be a stupid decision. However, my favorite games on Game Pass are Fable 3, Rocket League, Saints Row the 3rd. But yeah, so Fable 3, Rocket League, and Saints Row the 3rd are really great Game Pass games. I've mentioned 2 of them, I believe, in this video. I'm pretty sure I mentioned Saints Row the 3rd and Fable 3. However, my favorite Game Pass game has to be Fable 3 because even though it's an Xbox 360 game, I think it was probably my favorite Xbox 360 game. So basically what it is like you're this magical prince and you have to fight to retake over a kingdom because basically right now your government's really corrupt. So you basically go around and you fight all these different battles, you fight different beasts and stuff, and then that like unlocks these gates or basically progresses you through through the game, and the gates basically you get to the gate so you can get closer to your seat in government because you're like you're a prince and stuff. So you have to overtake your government and you have to build an army around like along the way. So at the end of the game, you can actually make like government decisions, like what you want to do with your newly found government, because you do become the king and you have like 100% of the power. So you can become like a good king or a bad king at the end, which is I thought a really amazing decision to add that in there, because you know with a lot of these type of games, like they would typically stop at you taking over the government and not actually let you do anything once you take over the government. But then it's like, what's the point of even taking over? I don't know if I'm not going to do anything after that, you know? So I think it was really cool that they had like a post story, like, okay, you made it this far, like you made it this far to have a story. Now what's going to be your story kind of thing. And so I just thought that was a really neat design of the game. Also, like the gameplay and graphics again were really good. You know, a lot of people say that graphics don't matter. For me, I can't play a game with bad graphics and enjoy it. I have to be enjoying what I'm looking at to be able to enjoy the game. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that, but that's just my opinion. So yeah, for Xbox 360 game, it had great graphics, great gameplay. It's just one of my it was the best in the Fable series by far. And it was probably one of my favorite games on Xbox 360 was Fable 3. So if you go ahead and get Game Pass, I would highly recommend getting Fable 3. Alrighty guys, so now it is time for the final category of the video, my favorite game series. Now, some good game series to recommend, series as in like an entire collection of games. I would look at Fable, Saints Row 3, or not Saints Row 3, Saints Row the series. Sorry about that. I was just thinking about Saints Row 3 because I've mentioned it like 5 times in this video. But yeah, Saints Row, the collection of Saints Row games as a whole. Fable games. Personally, I like Madden. Tom Clancy is a really good series. Tom Clancy is a fantastic shooter series. If you're into shooter games, I would highly recommend Tom Clancy. However, my favorite series of all game series has to be Saints Row. I'm looking at games like Gat Out of Hell, Reelected, The Third, or probably my top 3 of the entire collection. Saints Row was a huge series. I don't even know how many games there are in Saints Row total, but I mean it's a pretty good number for a series. And yeah, just gotta say it's probably my favorite series because it's like a weird cartoon Adult Swim version of Grand Theft Auto. Like there's lots of color, lots of like weird weapons. Like in Saints Row the Third, a pink or like a purple, like a big purple dildo was like basically a baseball bat, and you can go around beating people up with a dildo if you wanted to. So like stuff like that was just like really silly stuff. One of the games you have to like kill an evil Santa Claus. Like you literally like there's this evil version of Santa Claus that wants to kill Christmas, so you have to go kill him to save Christmas. So it's just like a really silly game series. And God of Hell, you're literally in hell. You fight Satan and stuff. Like you fight demons and everything. It was just like a really funny game as well. But they're all really well put together games too. Like the developers actually work really hard on all of them, and you can tell that. Like they're great stories actually, and the gameplay of it is really fun always. And I've basically enjoyed every single Saints Row game, and I would highly recommend buying any game in that series. They're pretty cheap now because most of them are older. I don't even know when the last Saints Row game released. It was like a couple years ago, but they're still really good games and they're still relevant games. I think you can get some of them for free with Game Pass. Let me see exactly which ones real quick. So you can get Saints Row Reelected and Saints Row the Third with Game Pass. Like I said, those two were like both in my top 3, along with God of FL. Unfortunately, you can't get that one with Game Pass yet. Surprised they don't just add the entire series to Game Pass. I really wish they did for you guys. But yeah, so Saints Row has to be my favorite game series. And that wraps up the video, boys. So I hope you guys enjoyed my 300 game special. And if you guys did, please hit that like button down below. Hit the subscribe button. Comment what your favorite game is. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.